Well, Sam, it's hard to believe that September baseball is here.
I know, right?
I can see you're dressed for the brisk, crisp fall weather.
Dude, you don't even know. I'm in the blanket,
Like my grandmother with a
Afghan.
Afghan on your lap.
Geez, I was in penance.
Okay,
I
really?
woke up in the podcast.
And here we are.
Yeah.
But let's do story time right off the top. I like this because September baseball, it can mean certainly the end of a long season for some teams, not the way you draw it up, but it can mean the end of a long season. But for some, it can mean the beginning of a career, the start of something, and maybe the opportunity that comes with one of those September call-ups. So tell me a story, Uncle Sam. I don't think I've ever called you Uncle Sam. Tell me a story, Sam.
You're one of the few.
Tell me a story, Sam, about one of those call-ups memorable to you that happened 14 years ago, if you can believe that.
Yeah. Well, I got lucky to see it on his Instagram, or I would have forgotten. I mean, I would have forgotten that it was 14 years, but it was Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, it's into your rookie year, though. You came up earlier.
I had a little bit more. I had a month earlier in the season, and I think then me and Chris Valeka got called up to San Francisco on like the 28th of August.
Okay.
So we get back, and they call Chappie up day 1 of September. Or maybe it was even the 31st. They called him up.
It was August 31st, I think.
Because he had to be available. He had to be up at a certain point to be available for the postseason roster.
Yeah.
And I think I was kind of watching it the other day, kind of trying to reminisce about it. I think there was a Craig Counsell involved. He grounded out to short. I can't even think of the team. But either way, I mean, he comes out and, he's so big now. But just I think that I have to call them the Reds. We were winning, like 8-3, and he comes in the 8th inning. I think people were kind of trickling, and this is where I first remember the phenomenon. It's watching people turn the back around to come back down the stairway when they heard Chappie's music play.
Right.
That was like the first time. I mean, that was, we call it the Ellie effect now. It was the Chappie effect. I mean, he kept people's butts in the seats, brought people to the yard. First pitch 98. I was like, that's only 6 miles an hour harder than I throw one of. There he is. So yeah, he definitely crept up the gun, and that was the beginning of, man, what a run that dude's had. And he ain't done, still throwing 117 miles an hour. But that was, as far as call ups and different things. Obviously, Rhett Lauder and who stuck out to me. That's kind of tough to top.
He had one strikeout in that first appearance.
A slider that was like the Nick Dolo slider.
Yeah.
He's on.
But what we talked about before is Aroldis Chapman was the first player of, the more recent generation that gave Cincinnati a cool factor, which gave Cincinnati national eyeballs, which gave Cincinnati, like you said, that one kind of player that turned people around, or that one kind of player that gave them the anticipation the entire game, that if you hung around, you might see something. And might see something pretty cool.
Yep.
And the difference now is, if we're talking about De La Cruz, is you don't have to wait until the 8th or 9th inning.
No, you don't. It could be right for jump.
Yeah, but watching Chapman from that, like you said, to still going now to being so big, he's been durable. He hasn't really changed that much. He hasn't had to learn how to pitch a different way, really, these years.
He does some different things now, but for the most part, yeah.
He can still throw, the numbers are still there. Anyway, that's a good way to start, and that's a good memory.
Welcome to September baseball.
Welcome to September baseball. Here's Aroldis Chapman. All right, welcome inside for Dead Red Cincinnati. Brian Giesenslaw, former Red Sam LaCure. The leadoff spot, Sam, I'm going to give you this. We got to start with some not so great news, so we'll try and work our way back up and build the positivity back up as we go. But here's the reality of the situation for the Cincinnati Reds. On August 14th, the Reds had just swept the Cardinals. They'd won 4 consecutive games at that point. August 14th. Think about that. That's not 3 weeks ago. Almost 3 weeks ago. They had tied the Cardinals for second in the division. They were a handful of games back in the wild card race, granted with a number of teams. Yeah. It was still an uphill battle, but they were there. And 2.5, 3 weeks later, well, actually, let me backtrack again. After that series, Jonathan India said, I feel like we're clicking. We're starting to click. And he said, I believe we're a playoff team. He believed that when he said it. I think most of us at least raised an eyebrow and thought, okay, maybe we're turning a corner. But 2.5 weeks later on Sunday, India, after a win at Great American Ballpark, which was a great win, India said, we just want to keep going, and our goal now is to finish above 500. And all of that's realistic too, but the change in the perspective in those 2.5 weeks, a lot happened. Injuries. And some injuries happened.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everything has changed for the Reds here for the month of September. What have you seen?
That's a shame. I mean, I picked a good time to be off work. I'll tell you that much. The kid's been on the beach for a minute. Now he's on the couch. Yeah, I mean, the best part of their team was decimated by injury. Their starting rotation. They're all on it. All of them.
Yeah.
Brandon Williamson, people forgot about him. Here he comes all of a sudden. Get healthy real quick when people start getting hurt. Let me get back to the big leagues. Yeah, I mean, so that makes them not a good team. I think if you want me to just really simplify it, cut it down to its core, they're no longer a competitive team without their starting pitching because offense has been inconsistent all year. Now, make no offense to the Rhett Louders and the Julian Aguiars, who I love, and I love guys coming up. They have an opportunity to make a mark. Until they've shown me they can pitch it and win at the big league level, they can't. This is not a guilty till proven innocent. Not like you're guilty. Like you can't do it until I've seen you do it. And the offense still continues to sputter. And so that is the reality of it. But, you talk about a 2-week stretch in May, counted just the same as this one, but feels an awful lot different. You don't have any time to make it up. Giving up a 5 spot in the 7th inning, giving up a 5 spot in the 2nd inning. You got time to make up ground. They don't have that anymore, but, it's an opportunity for other guys, mention Rhett Louder to come up and, put themselves on the map for spring training next year, moving forward. Like, yeah, sorry, folks that listen to this podcast. Like, we're back to maybe next year.
Yeah, and listen, every team has injuries. You say that every year, and no one feels sorry for anybody else. It's that kind of a business. You can't.
You do, but you're not going to take it.
Yeah, you don't want people to look and go, oh, man, the poor Reds. No one wants that. No one in the clubhouse wants that. David Bell doesn't want that. But the reality of the situation is, again, when you look at it, on Monday, on Labor Day at Great American Ballpark, Reds had an off day on Tuesday. On Monday on Labor Day, I think that was the most dire situation that I've seen in terms of how are we going to cover 9 innings? Really, think about it. And we're talking to David Bell. I think after the game, he kind of gave a little more insight into just where they were. But all you had to do was look and see what the options were. When we asked him before the game about Julian Aguiar and the fact that Aguiar, who's a rookie who's never done this, was asked to go back out there on 3 days rest. He said, someone said, what made Aguiar available in your mind today after just 3 days? And he said, well, he was the most available of the options that I have. So Julian Aguiar goes on 3 days rest. Carson Spires goes on 2 days rest. 2 inexperienced starting pitchers doing all that they can. Then you have some guys really step up, which a lot of guys have in this time out of the bullpen. Emilio Pagan comes to mind from Monday. But they literally, even when looking to potential people they could call up, they literally had to really work to cover 9 innings. And they won. Tip of the cap to those guys. But it was one of the most desperate situations that from the outside that I've seen. Yeah. And I wasn't in on any of the conversations internally, that had to be really painful to arrive at that. Okay, we've got Aguiar on 3 days. We've got Carson Spires on 2. That's probably the best we can do.
And that sucks. I mean, just all the way around.
Yeah.
How many roster moves have they had to make? How many, guys you talked about in the past week or more that I've been gone that you didn't know. I sure as hell wouldn't have known who it was. Geez, how do you pronounce this dude's name? Where's he from? That's where it was going to be. But you also find the mettle of a man, I think, in a dire situation. And Julian Aguiar, since he's kind of front of mind, I like him.
Mm-hmm.
You earn some stripes doing stuff like that. You get dirt in your spikes. And now when I see Julian Aguiar go out and pitch, now I think, okay, this team looks more like a better team because I like the guy on the mound and he can give him a chance to win.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for as a guy for in his first couple of years is go out there and give the team a chance to win. Once you've established yourself, once you're Hunter Green and once you're, hopefully Nick Lodolo here before too long, then I need you to go out and win games. But for right now, I need to give the team a chance to win. And they're going to have guys that are going to step up and do that. And I think it'll bode well for them moving forward in their careers and for the Reds. You've now explored, unfortunately, more depth and maybe you've got more depth than you thought or less. But going into the offseason, okay, which way are we going here? Do we need to go get some more starting pitching depth? Need some more of this, et cetera.
Yeah, well, you want to find fighters, and the Reds have had to have some fighters.
And I think that's important too.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that happens in a team in this situation at this time of the season. Good news is, as you alluded to, Brandon Williamson is back, whether that was part of the plan or not. He's back. You wouldn't put him out there if he wasn't physically healthy and ready, but maybe you would have liked to have given him a little more time. He's back, looked good his first time out. There's still the expectation that both Green and Abbott, at the very least, will start again sometime this month. And Lodolo, I think they're kind of waiting to see once the splint comes off of his finger how that goes. But that's good news in that they maybe have some more guys on the way back. But right now, the next step in that process that we've talked about, you've already alluded to Rhett Lauder. So Rhett Lauder, drafted 7th overall in 2023, becomes another one of those guys from that draft class to already make his debut and be really, he's made one start.
Pretty good.
But that's rare for a pitcher in Reds history to make his big league debut the season after he was drafted. One of your former teammates, Mike Leake, did that. Tony Cingrani did that. But now you have Rhett Lauder. And from what you know of your time with him, scouting reports, video, whatever, after he went 4 innings in his debut, 2 hits, 1 run, nerves that resulted in 4 walks. I think it was totally nerves and kind of finding himself there, but a mildly successful debut given the circumstances. What do you think?
I like it. I like him a lot moving forward. I guess would be my short answer. Just for those listening, Brian's alluding to the Reds caravan that we were on together, and it was Rhett and Frankie Montaz, and I forget the other kid's name, and Corky Miller. So Rhett was getting the run. Yeah, he was getting. School was in session.
School was in session.
Yeah, but and in a good way too. We were talking a lot about pitching. We were giving him plenty of shit. See how he'd handle it. But him and Frankie talking pitching. He was attentive.
Yeah,
stuck out to me a lot. He was asking some questions that stuck out to me a lot. Guys get a little bit proud. I may have been one of those guys. I don't feel like it, but too proud to ask a question.
Right.
Like I'm all right. Hey, I'm getting to the big leagues. Hey, Aaron Harang, what do you do? Arroyo, what's up? Different things about what he was into it, and asking Frankie about how do you pitch 200 innings.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pitch deep in the game, and I can just see light bulbs going off when Frankie and I are talking about early count contact and whatever. I think the kid can really pitch. Like I like this. I like the stuff, and people kind of rave about his stuff. 95, 96, pretty run of the mill these days. You back it up with a changeup and a nice breaking ball and an understanding of how to use it, which I think he absolutely does. then you got some on your hands. Somebody who can locate a good mixture of pitches. That's what he's got. I think that the Reds' hands was forced to have him here now. He may force their hand again come next spring about being in that rotation. And I mean, it's way too far out to talk about, but I like him a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to like. And when you talk about those conversations with Montas and with you and with Corky, those were all reinforced this week when Louder got to Great American Ballpark and we got to talk to him for the first time, because once we got past the introductory stuff about
what you're doing here.
Yeah, about him saying, yeah, I was surprised. I wasn't expecting this. And the Reds certainly, I don't think were expecting it, but they believe he can do it and was ready and he was needed. Once we got past all that and how he felt about being at the ballpark, you know, whose name came up right away from Rhett Louder's mouth was Tucker Barnhart, the Reds' Gold Glove catcher of the past, now trying to, you know, continue to play and trying to get back to the bigs, and he's in Louisville. And that right now, while not ideal for Tucker, is invaluable for the Reds, that in his short time in Louisville, Rhett Louder got to work with Tucker Barnhart. And Louder immediately said not only was Barnhart really helpful in kind of guiding him through the start and the preparation for the start, but he said Tucker also kind of validated some things I was already doing, where I thought about, I had this pitch in the back of my mind, and when Tucker called that pitch, then that reassured me that, one, we were on the same page, and two, maybe I had a decent idea about what I was doing out there.
Yeah.
And so tell me how valuable that could be both now and in the future, just to continue to have things like that for a young pitcher.
Well, I think it's great. I mean, with the kind of influx of people that are coming up to the big leagues right now that we haven't heard of, that are passing through Tucker to get there, he can help prepare. You know, he can go into a catcher's meeting and saying, hey, this is how you're going to do it at the big leagues, and you might be there next week. Let's treat this right. And Tucker would do that. I remember it was for me, it was 2006. I was in Sarasota High A, and Jason LaRue came down on a rehab start. And I mean, I'd thrown the ball okay.
Yeah.
You know, it was my first season of pro ball and felt like I was going along all right. I mean, he comes down there, 7 innings, 1 hit, 11 punch outs or something like that. I mean, this is baseball. I got so much shit for having a good game just because Jason LaRue was down there. I mean, wearing me out. But it's a difference.
Yeah.
You know, I'll take all that good. I was like, I'll throw to him soon enough. But there is a trust that you have immediately. With Jason LaRue, he doesn't know any of these hitters, neither do I.
Right.
But he's seeing something in how he's coaching me along to deliver the ball based on what I'm telling him that day with my stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that Tucker has a great eye for that. You know,
absolutely.
I had Corky again, you know, before I got called up to the big leagues. You know, that's another helpful tool, you know, to get you there. So, and I guess you could say, and I hope Corky doesn't listen to this, but that Tucker's kind of in the vicinity of where Corky was, right? Yeah. And Tucker may have been that for a couple of years. He's hanging around the big leagues, got 10 years of service time. Tucker ain't going to cry no river. But no, I think it's going to be great for the Reds organization to have them pass through a guy like that, especially maybe when they're on truly the doorstep of being called to the big leagues based on need.
Yeah, yeah. We'll wrap up that conversation with the fact that David Bell said he was texting with Tucker about what he knew about Louder. And the last thing David said that he got from Tucker was a text that said, quote, "You're getting a special one." So that kind of, you know, David can talk to – David has that same trust and relationship with Tucker Barnhart, and I think that coming made a big difference. And
couple-time Gold Glover who's seen a few guys come and go in this league.
A few guys.
After 5 minutes with the kid.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's wrap up this part with another good story. This is the category of like father, like son is where we're going to go with this right now, because Darren Baker made his big league debut this week. Although he really made his big league debut back in 2002 in the World Series. That was his first game action, right? When 3-year-old Darren Baker, going out to get the bat for the Giants, is scooped up by JT Snow as David Bell comes barreling down the third baseline. That was the world's big league introduction to Darren Baker. And then there were all these years at Great American Ballpark where we all saw Darren Baker when his dad was in the manager's seat. And that was interesting to watch him grow up there. But now 25 years old, Darren Baker makes his big league debut. Dusty, obviously, and I think so thankfully able to be there and watch and just be a dad.
Yeah.
How does that grab you when you see that from both the angle of having watched Darren grow up to also knowing what that means to Dusty?
A ton, because, I was just looking, Matt Holliday's been a buddy of mine, former Cardinal. His dad coached me in college, so to watch Jackson get up, and they were just in Colorado where Matt, was a great player for years. And, he got to throw out the first pitch to Jackson, and I watched Jackson when he was whatever. And to see, those guys do that, some people would be like, oh, they're just drafting him because it's Dusty Baker's son. There's a difference in the ball player, the young one who's spent all their time in a big league clubhouse and knows how to do it. And it's not physical. Mm-hmm. It is a mental ability to feel comfortable in your surroundings, to slow the game down, to have been around greatness at, all these years. That's why those guys make it to the big leagues. They're not better players. I mean, you can say Jackson's got the hit. And Darren, Darren earned his way to the big leagues.
Yeah.
He understood how to use his talents. Nice to have Dusty Baker on your side, for sure. But no, I think that's so neat. For Dusty, a cherry on top of. I mean, he's done it. Now he's done everything.
Right.
Other coach's damn son in the major leagues, and watch out! Here comes Dusty. Here comes Dusty.
But after the game, that was one of the things Darren said. He said, "Look, my mom has been there for so much coming up, but my dad, because he was always working, missed a lot of things. And then for that first game, that first at bat, that first hit, Dusty got to be a dad." And I like that. And we all saw Darren running around with some of those other guys. But you talk about that. That's so dead on. Think about David Bell grew up in a clubhouse. Ken Griffey Jr. grew up in a clubhouse. The Reds have always seemingly had
Jr., Boone's, Larkin.
Yeah.
All the way down. I mean, it's not an accident. Like those guys just obviously have good resources as far as the guys they're talking to about hitting, but also just the confidence of being in the locker room and understanding from being field level of how fast the game is, an early understanding that they needed to slow that damn thing down.
Yeah. But also, like you said, just the dynamic of you got to have some thick skin. You got to find that. You got to know in the clubhouse how you live and how you have to operate with all of those voices. Yeah, I think that's
picking on you, or obviously being good to him, but picking on him and all that good stuff.
All that good stuff. All right, time now for a quick edition of Five and Dive. And we thought, obviously, as we get closer to the end of the regular season, we'll do some of this a little bit more. But why not at the start of September have you give some take here on some of the best teams, best players, best pitchers. So Five and Dive, number 1 and number 2. I'll go ahead and say 1 and 2. Give me your World Series matchup as you will see it right now at the start of September.
Houston and Arizona.
I love it.
Arizona's back in different Texas team.
They are. I like that. Cy Young. This will be number 3 and 4 for Five and Dive. Give me a Cy Young for each league.
American League, we're going with that, and I kind of hate it because they've been talking this guy up, and I feel like MLB.com always tries to talk it. Tarek Skybal or whatever. He's looked great, and finally. And I love this guy so much, and I hated to see what he's been going through, and I hope he holds on for the rest of the year. Chris Sale.
Love it. And this is going to be not Five and Dive. This is going to be a quality start because we're going to go 6 to be able to round out the MVPs for each league. And this is where the conversation gets a little tougher. MVP is always a tougher conversation because
what do you value?
What do you value? When you see that word valuable, what do you value? Where does individual success and team success come into play? All of those things, but give me your 2 picks and then maybe a little bit of a discussion.
Okay. I got to go. I mean, whether he hits 61 or not, and Bobby Witt Jr.'s had an unbelievable year. and kind of in any other year, but Aaron Judge is just different.
Yep, different.
Okay, well, we're going to swing over to National League, and here's where we got to go for our quality start. I'll probably end up getting a 2-run homer. It's going to go to Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
It's going to. That's not a prediction. That's a fact. They've never given a DH to anybody before. He's having a pretty – it's not a historical season if somebody's already gone 40-40. You're starting to mince, word when it's, he's 43 now. I get it. And he's done it faster. He's got a chance at 50-50. 50-50 makes it a little easier for me to swallow. I'll say that. 40-40 does not.
Yeah.
And then I look down the list of who's on that in that category. There's nobody that sticks out to me. Move over to the valuable portion. He's on a team with a payroll of $827 billion.
Yeah.
And they've lost a lot of guys this year and haven't skipped a beat. They lost Mookie and they kept winning. Like, how valuable is he to that team? He's been a constant. I'll say that. The next guy I came to is Jackson Merrill for the Padres, a rookie who's never played center field before and has hit game-winning, game-tying home runs in the 8th or 9th inning 10 times this year. Where'd the Padres come from? They've been an afterthought for a long time.
Here they are.
And how here they are, and are they doing with that? Are they doing that without him? So the discussion becomes MVP. What do you value?
Yeah, and that's I agree with you, and I always struggle. Even before you brought up the designated hitter part, I always struggle with the value thing, because some people are very rigid in their, well, what about the team? And then you go back to, but that's not the definition of, are you talking about the best player or the one that helps us? I struggle with that a lot, but I agree with your picks.
Yeah.
And then I just started looking, if they're in the National League, if, Jackson Merrill, but if there was someone else that really had a really good case that I could think of, then I think
Bryce Harper, but he kind of fell off.
Yeah.
It's in 284 with 26 homers and 75 RBIs.
Right.
Pretty nice year for most.
Yeah. Willie Adames, first place team.
Not doing a great Bryce Harper team, and you got that as well.
Yeah, Willie Adames on a first place team has 26 and 99. So anyway, I like that conversation. We'll have it again throughout this month and see where we go. Okay. We wrap it up now with the stretch. And there was a time in the game of baseball, as we stretch, that this was more celebrated, a more time-honored tradition than maybe it is now. But the rookie hazing that typically tends to happen this time of year, it takes on various forms, I guess, throughout the season for rookies. If you got to carry the music, or you got to, lug equipment or whatever. But back in your day, there was always the rookie road trip, right?
Yep.
The rookie road trip. What do you remember about the rookie road trip and how that played out?
Well, I think for, across the board, pretty standard is for every team is getting the coffee in Chicago at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard.
In uniform.
In uniform. And that's what, that's what teams let people see. Okay? Now, you start getting dressed up in diapers and wearing binkies around on charter flights and showing up into Baltimore for Four Seasons with one of those damn little things on your head. That's a little bit different. So, and you and I have talked a little bit about this off camera or whatever it was, but it definitely started to change. It became less accepted. The different generation was coming up and didn't have thick skin. I'll just say it. They ain't got thick skin. Okay, they're soft. And so, look, dude, it's our podcast. I can say whatever the hell I want. All right. They start paying me, they can start firing me. Okay, how about that?
Yeah.
And it did change. The guys were taking it personally and I don't want to be made to look like an idiot. And why are they doing this to? So I started to see that writing on the wall early, even by the time I got out, which was 15, it was still practiced, but it was certainly a little bit less and not frowned upon. You just had to get a little bit more creative as a veteran player to make fun of these babies.
I'm just gonna leave it right there because that's a good way to end it. That's a great way to end it. But September.
We'll see how it goes, man. There's not going to be 40 people, so the games aren't going to take 7 hours apiece.
Right. That's the other difference. Is remember how crowded a clubhouse got when you could bring up so many guys. There were no empty lockers, and in fact, there were probably a few temporary lockers just to accommodate everybody. But not the case anymore.
Mark Stowe started to trickle into the club. I mean, they got a damn locker over there.
Exactly. All right, that's good.
We'll bounce around this September on some different things. You know, with
I look forward to it.
If they're not going to be in, prime contention for it, we don't have to act like they are. So, we'll figure out some other good stuff to talk about. But for now, do the like and subscribe. Hope I get my voice. I got to give my voice a break. I got Texas country music coming to the Liqueur House tonight.
So I
got guitars and Cadillacs and hillbilly music, but I do have a Cadillac. That's funny. Do the like, do the subscribe. We'll catch you at the ballpark soon, hopefully. And go Reds and go Brian Giesenslaw.
Oh, I love you.